Terminating an employee's employment is one of the most significant acts in a manager's professional life. When it is done correctly, it is an act of organizational integrity, a clear, fair, humane conclusion to an employment relationship that is no longer working. When it is done poorly, it is damaging to everyone involved. The employee who deserves honesty and dignity, the team who is watching and drawing conclusions about how leadership treats people, and the organization that may face legal, reputational, and cultural consequences for years afterward. Most termination failures are not caused by insufficient cause. They are caused by insufficient process, inadequate documentation, premature action, poor communication, or a combination of all three. This video is the manager's step-by-step guide to handling the full arc of employee performance management, from the first documentation of concern to the final termination conversation, with respect, clarity, and legal defensibility at every stage. The first milestone is performance documentation, the often skipped step that makes every subsequent step either defensible or vulnerable. Documentation is not bureaucracy. It is the factual record that establishes a basis for action and demonstrates that the employer met its obligation to inform the employee of performance concerns and provide an opportunity to improve. Effective performance documentation includes 4 elements: a specific, objective description of the performance or behavior concern, the date and context in which it was observed, the standard that was not met, referenced against the role's clear expectations, and the conversation or formal communication in which the concern was raised with the employee. Documentation should be contemporaneous, written at the time of or immediately after the relevant event, and factual in tone, not interpretive or emotional. John submitted the quarterly report 4 days late without prior notice, after which a meeting was held on date to discuss expectations around deadline adherence is documentation. John doesn't care about deadlines is not. The second milestone is the performance improvement process, the structured intervention that provides the employee a genuine opportunity to meet expectations before a termination decision is made. A performance improvement plan, or PIP, is the formal mechanism for this in most organizations. A well-designed PIP contains specific, measurable performance expectations and the timeline within which they must be met, the support, resources, and coaching that will be provided, a check-in schedule with defined milestones, and the explicit consequence, including potential termination if expectations are not met within the defined period. This serves 2 functions simultaneously. It provides a genuine opportunity for the employee to improve, and it creates a documented process that demonstrates good faith in the event of subsequent legal review. A PIP should never be designed to fail. If the organization has already decided to terminate, proceeding through a fake PIP is both ethically wrong and legally risky. The third milestone is the termination conversation itself, the most emotionally and legally consequential moment in the process. 4 principles govern a well-executed termination. First, preparation. The conversation should be fully prepared and not improvised. The manager should know exactly what will be said, what documentation will be presented, and what the next steps are. Second, clarity. The message must be delivered clearly and immediately. Beginning with lengthy context setting before delivering the news prolongs distress without serving anyone. The employee should know within the first 2 minutes of the conversation that employment is ending. Third, dignity. The conversation should take place in a private setting, should be conducted by the direct manager accompanied by an HR representative where possible, and should be free from anger, accusation, or elaboration beyond what is necessary. Fourth, logistics. The employee should receive in the meeting clear information about final pay, benefits, company property return, and severance if applicable. A checklist ensures nothing is missed under the pressure of an emotionally charged interaction. Here is the trap. Many managers delay termination decisions long past the point where the decision has effectively been made, because the conversation is deeply uncomfortable. This delay is not kindness, it is avoidance at the employee's expense. A talented employee in the wrong role, who is kept in that role through a manager's avoidance of a difficult conversation, is denied the opportunity to find the right role. And a genuine performance problem that is tolerated rather than addressed sends a message to the entire team that standards are theoretical. your go-do. Review your current performance documentation practices. For each direct report where a performance concern exists, however minor, ensure that concern is documented, that the employee has been clearly informed, and that a clear standard and timeline for improvement has been established. Documentation started today protects both parties tomorrow. Termination intersects directly with employment law and the legal framework governing how and when termination is permissible. The Employment Law Essentials video in this series should be treated as required reading alongside this one. Constructive dismissal is a legal concept that every manager should understand because it can convert what appears to be a resignation into a dismissal that carries all of the legal protections and remedies of a standard termination. Constructive dismissal occurs when an employer takes unilateral action, changing the terms and conditions of employment without consent, creating a hostile work environment, or fundamentally breaching the employment contract. That leaves the employee with no reasonable alternative but to resign. Courts and employment tribunals in most jurisdictions will treat a resignation in these circumstances as a dismissal and hold the employer to the same obligations as if the employee had been terminated. The preventive implication is clear. Changes to employment terms must be negotiated, not imposed, and workplace culture must be actively managed to prevent conditions that would justify an employee's claim that they were constructively forced out. The role of the exit interview, conducted during or shortly after the notice period of an employee who has resigned, is frequently undervalued as both a retention intelligence tool and a legal risk management mechanism. A well-conducted exit interview provides honest feedback about the organizational conditions that influence the departure, early warning of broader talent satisfaction issues, and a documented record that the organization engaged professionally with the departing employee's experience. Organizations that conduct thoughtful, non-defensive exit interviews and act on the patterns they reveal consistently improve their retention metrics over time. Those that treat exit interviews as a perfunctory administrative step miss the intelligence that would allow them to prevent the next departure. When termination is the outcome, the severance negotiation, where applicable, should be handled with the same precision and legal care as the termination decision. Severance offers that are above the statutory minimum should be accompanied by a properly drafted settlement agreement, variously called a release, a separation agreement, or a compromise agreement by jurisdiction, that clearly specifies what the employee is receiving, what they are releasing, and what obligations both parties retain post-employment. Drafting this document without appropriate legal review is a false economy. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, hit like and subscribe to our channel for more practical insights. And if you're ready to go further, check out the next video on your screen.